This is a review of the Bluesound 2i streamer, and the streamer itself has been out for a little while. It's not particularly new on the market, but that's okay. I wanted to review the streamer for a little while, and I thought I would wait. Part of the reason is because streamers like this are the subject, if they're supported well by the host company, that is, they're the subject of a host of upgrades and support actions and enhancements and what have you. And I wanted to see how far the 2i in this case would go. And I say this because when I have attended several product launches, there's an awful lot of hoo-ha and there's a big party and there's an awful lot of enthusiasm by the companies involved, and people are eager to grab review samples, and they run off and they do the review and it's published and they forget about them and they move on to the next thing. And the product is yesterday's news all of a sudden. And I don't know how many products I've seen which have been blasted onto the market with a loud bang and then they've almost disappeared overnight. Well, not necessarily overnight, but they've been allowed to drift on the market, shall we say. They don't really get the upgrades and the promised support that the company said they would give, and it sort of becomes very tired very quickly, and then after a year the company almost denies they even had it. Or they even released it and they were even interested in supporting it in the first place. And then customers who were there at the beginning, those early adopters, they feel a little bit disappointed and hung out to dry. Obviously it doesn't happen all the time, and with good companies it doesn't happen at all. But there are certain products out there where this does happen. And I just wanted to see, because streaming is the in thing as far as hi-fi technology is concerned, and the technology is moving so quickly, whether the 2i would last. And it has. I'm pleased to say that Lembrook, who is the company which owns Bluesound, have been good boys in this particular occasion, and they've done well. They've supported the Bluesound to the hilt. They've upgraded the supporting app on several occasions. Amazon HD and Ultra HD is supported. There's a physical remote called the RC1, priced I think at £49, which should be available now to buy. So again, it's nice. It keeps everybody interested. It keeps the product fresh. It keeps attention on the product. And it just gives everybody the impression that the parent company is interested, which gives users confidence. And that's a very important and vastly underrated aspect of owning hi-fi. You hate to feel abandoned with a product. You like a company, a parent company, to maintain contact and touch because you feel as though your product is more relevant. So it's an important aspect of owning any hi-fi, whether it's a streamer or a pair of speakers or CD player or whatever. So the 2i streamer itself, obviously it's a separate item. A lot of streamers are built in to other products nowadays. You often get hi-fi all-in-ones where the streamer is inside the chassis, but not with the 2i. The 2i comes in its own chassis. It's a separate item, and I like that. I like that separation, because when you separate one hi-fi job from another, i.e. in this case the streamer from the amplifier, then you will reduce noise. The isolating effect, the mere fact that they're apart, the distance in between the two, lowers high frequency noise, lowers vibration, improves sound quality. So I like the fact that the Bluesound, the 2i, is a separate item. It's not within something else. So that's a good thing in my book. The heart of the 2i inside the chassis is an ARM chip. It's a Cortex A9 running at 1 gigahertz. It supports sound files up to 32-bit 192. If you look at the front, there's a mini headphone 3.5mm port. On the top, there are touch-sensitive basic controls. Around the back, there are optical and coax inputs. As far as outs are concerned, outputs, you get a pair of RCAs and also coax and optical as well. And there's a connection for a subwoofer if you need that. You'll find a USB port, so you can plug in a USB stick to provide sound sources there. In addition to that, there are many internet services supported, including the usual Spotify and Tidal and all the rest. A Qualcomm chip gives you Bluetooth, in this case Bluetooth 5, which also gives you apt, how do you pronounce it? Is it aptX, aptX? I never know how to say this. aptX HD, let's call it that. You'll find AirPlay 2 is also supported, which is great for multi-room systems. And in addition to that, Siri voice control is also there as well. On related systems, Amazon and Google's voice control systems are also supported. During installation, my particular Bluetooth here is not the strongest, it's also not the fastest, because I'm living in the back of beyond at the moment. So the wireless support here is not great. Wireless broadband did struggle to see the 2i. I had much better success when I connected the 2i on a wired level. And if you're looking for great sound quality, then a wired connection is preferred anyway. I grabbed a high-speed CAT cable. I had a CAT 6A, which I connected to the rear of the 2i just to give as much transfer speed as possible. Once connected in the wired fashion, the BlueOS app saw the unit and then proceeded to download several updates. Now, I would recommend you go through this. It's going to take a few minutes, yes, but it's worthwhile because you may find that both performance and sound quality is improved after the updates. When testing sound quality, most people go straight to music. I don't like to do that. I like to go to the radio, and specifically Radio 4. The reason I do this is because there's an awful lot of information, not just through the spoken voice, but where the speaker is speaking from and in what way. So what you're looking for is tonality of the voice and studio ambience. These are aspects of sound which can really illuminate a streamer because they're hard to do well. So, for example, I was quite lucky actually, because I managed to get 2 studio voices and an outside broadcast. It was a cookery program. The lady in the studio, in Radio 4 studio, was doing a piece on Chinese food. And she was talking to another lady who was outside in the street, who's a Chinese chef. So the Radio 4 lady was speaking, obviously speaking, in a studio where it was of fair size. You could hear a little bit of space and echo, a little bit of sort of ambient sound around her. It was not closed in at all, and that was good. The 2i did well to recognize that and to deliver that information. She then switched to the chef who was standing outside. You could tell that the Chinese chef was standing a little bit further back from the microphone in comparison to the studio. You could also hear ambient sounds around her. Again, you could recognize the outside space. So that was a great thing. At the end of their conversation, the lady passed over to a gentleman who was a continuity announcer. He then talked about what was coming up later on during that day. But he was obviously in almost like a booth, a small, very small area, a very small room. There was a sort of rich fruitiness about his voice. There was a slightly claustrophobic air, quite a warm aspect to the ambience. Again, great contrast. Now, I say all this, and I go into this detail because streamers have difficulty, in my experience, in getting those subtle nuances. I mean, we're not talking about big bowl percussion. We're not talking about rasping lead guitars here. They're big, bold, in your face. What I'm interested in is subtlety and nuance. You really want to test a streamer, okay? The obvious stuff is too easy. That's what I'm trying to say. So when you get to talking, when you get to speech, and you get ambience, the room, the distance of the microphone from the face, and so on and so forth, these are difficult sounds to deliver to the ear. The 2i did this, and it did it very well. Now, I say all this, and it was all great, but don't forget this is a £500 streamer, so let's not get carried away here. There were certain restrictions. The dynamic reach of the 2i went so far, and you could tell it hit a sort of ceiling at certain points, whether it's in the upper mids or the bass area. But for the price, and I'm talking about in its price point, it performed wonderfully. While I was on radio, I turned to a station called Swiss Groove, which I'd never heard before, and there was some pop funk on there. It was a good signal from this particular station, and there was some very nice detail from the mid-range area. Bass was solid and some good impact, so very happy with that as well. I then turned to Amazon Music and listened to several streams from there, and firstly I was happy with the connection. I never heard any connection drop. There was never any interruption. Everything was rock solid. Generally speaking, the music had quite a neutral, balanced presentation, which I like. But also the frequencies generally were quite disciplined. Nothing misbehaved. There was no pinching treble. There was no blooming bass. There was no smearing mid-range. Everything performed as it should. I then plugged in a USB stick and listened to a high-res file of Sonny Rollins, it was. Sound quality was very good indeed through the USB stick. The saxophones had a slight forward edge to them. That could have been my fault because I use a Wi-Fi extender in my listening room, which was on. That can create a little bit of high frequency noise. So there may have been a little bit of that coming through the music, through the jazz itself. So that may have had an influence on what I was hearing. In terms of the music itself, the upright bass in some systems can be masked by what's going on. The upright bass tends to blend in the back of the mix a little bit. But here it was focused, it was detailed, and that's a good thing. Cymbal taps in terms of percussion were informative and precise. And the one thing I really noticed about the 2i was the ability of it to go right into the mix and to drag all the detail, even from those little dark corners, right towards the ear. So everything was laid out in front of you. Nothing could hide from the 2i. Everything was pulled into the light. I then used my iPhone to connect to the 2i via Bluetooth, and I played a lossy file. Obviously, lossy files are not the best sources in the world, but they're a good challenge for any streamer. So this particular lossy file was a Paul McCartney track called My Valentine. And I was expecting, because Bluetooth is not the best delivery system in the whole world, and obviously you've got this lossy file as well, I was expecting some clinical brightness from the stream itself, but I was pleasantly surprised with the 2i because I didn't really get that. I got some good space, I got a nicely ordered soundstage, I got some air in between the instruments, and that enhanced the detail of the Bluetooth stream. So I was very happy with that. In short, the 2i itself is just a compact little thing. It's very light, it's unobtrusive, sound quality overall is excellent. Price point you can't really complain about at all. I think it's an excellent streamer. If you haven't got a streamer, think about the 2i carefully. The mere fact that it's separate from the rest of the hi-fi is a really good thing, and it does lower the noise, it improves that sound quality, and I would definitely recommend the Bluesound 2i streamer. If you have a Bluesound 2i, I'd love to know what you think of it, what your opinions, and how you're using it in your hi-fi. What other system components are in your hi-fi, and also let me know how you use your 2i. In what way? Do you use it wired or wireless? What sorts of sources do you use it with? Do you plug in a USB stick or anything else in the optical port? How do you use it? Because it's a bit of a Swiss Army knife of a product, the 2i. So let me know. And until then, if you'd like to comment below, let me know. That'd be great. Keep it clean, keep it polite, no swearing please. This is a family channel. Until next video, I will see you then.